I recently Baroque my funny bone. I don't see what's so humorous about it. Let's talk about Baroque. Well, not really Baroque, but Baroque, which is the type of music that was being composed in Europe about 400 years ago, from 1600 to 1750. 150 years worth of what you probably know as classical music. Baroque is the style that came after Renaissance and before Classicism, and was composed by musicians like Bach, Vivaldi, and Handel. I bet you've heard some Baroque music and just haven't realized it. How long is your favorite song? I bet you didn't know that Vivaldi's Four Seasons is actually over 40 minutes long. That's a long song. Baroque is the word used to describe this style of music, but was actually labeled this in somewhat of a negative way. The Portuguese word barroco means funny-shaped pearl, and was initially used to refer to this music because some critics believed that it lacked a consistent melody and constantly changed key and speed. 400 years ago, things were pretty different than they are now, but the music being created then has paved the way to creating some of the music we listen to today. During this period, composers started to write music, giving specific parts to particular instruments. Before this time, it was mostly up to the musician to play music on whatever instrument they liked. Now music was starting to be created that had a special part for lots of different instruments to play all together, and was the beginning of the orchestra. The Baroque period saw the creation of new musical genres like opera, as composers used music to tell their stories. You may have heard of different types of music like the sonata or the concerto. These pieces of music went suddenly from loud to quiet and had big musical sections mixed in with the quieter solos. Not Hans's solo, but parts where one instrument might play something special just by itself while everyone else stops, and started to repeat two quick little notes called trills to bring more feeling into the music. Imagine a story about a little mouse scurrying around. The music would use trills to represent quick little scurrying feet to help tell the story. Baroque music brought together singing and instruments in a bigger and more impressive way to create the foundations of the types of music we listen to today. If you listen to a Taylor Swift song today, you will hear her voice played over a bunch of other instruments like keyboards, drums, and guitars with varying volumes. Often the verses are quieter, building to louder choruses. Baroque music is known for having a lot of contrast, both in volume and sound. Instruments of that period, like the harpsichord and some organs, had more than one keyboard, so the player could switch in between the two to create contrasting sounds. How many tickles does it take to make an octopus laugh? 10 tickles. In the operas and concertos that were written at this time, composers were trying to convey stories and feelings more so than in earlier musical periods. Each movement in a concerto would portray a different emotion, much like the way a movie soundtrack is today. Sad parts in movies will have sad music, happy parts will have upbeat music, and scary parts may have quiet, tense music or loud, abrupt music. Johann Sebastian Bach is probably the most well-known composer of this time, so it makes sense that when he died in 1750, it signaled the end of the Baroque period and the beginning of Classicism.